welcome back to Mathematical Economics class. In this class, I'll be showing you how to derive average variable cost and average fixed cost. So let's take a look at this example. The question says, if the variable cost and fixed cost of a firm are given as, so we have variable cost function. So we have VC equals 3Q squared minus Q raised to 3, and we have fixed cost equals 40. So the question says derive the firm's average fixed cost, 2, average variable cost, 3, average cost, 4, total cost. So here is the solution. So from the previous video where I taught how to derive average from total, average from total, we have to divide total by its independent variable, that is by Q. In this regard, so in other words, average fixed cost is going to be equal to total fixed cost. So total fixed cost is the same thing as fixed cost. Okay, so it's going to be fixed cost divided by Q. So in this way, what's our fixed cost? We have 40, which is 40 over Q. So this is equal to, we can leave it like this, or we say 40 Q minus 1. So it's the same thing. So in other words, this is our AFC. Our AFC equals 40 over Q, or we like 40 Q raised to the minus 1. So this is solution to question 1. Question 2 says derive average variable cost. Average variable cost. So to derive the average variable cost, remember the concept? Said divide total by its independent variable Q in this regard. So here we have total variable cost. Okay, the same thing as just variable cost. So divide by Q. So in other words, we have what? Variable cost is 3Q squared minus 4 Q raised to divided by Q. Then this gives us, we can split that, square over Q minus Q raised to 3 over Q. So in other words, you can, this Q, we count one of the Q's here, so we have 3Q left. This one counts one of 3Q, so we have minus Q raised to power 3. So this is average variable cost. Okay. Now, we are also asked to derive average cost. We have to derive average cost. So I think the question here wanted to say derive average cost. Yes, the question is average cost. So how do you derive average cost? Very simple. So let me do it here. To derive the average cost. So in this wise, we already know our average fixed cost and average variable cost. You remember that total cost equals variable cost plus fixed cost. So in other words, our average cost will be equal to average variable cost plus average fixed cost. Okay, so how do you arrive at this? If you want to know, just divide both sides by Q. We divide this total by Q, so we are going to get average cost. Divide this by Q, get average variable cost. Divide it by Q, get average fixed cost. So in other words, we have our AC, which is question 3. AC will be equals to average variable cost. We got that already. We have 3Q's minus Q raised to power. So okay, sorry, I made a mistake here. Will be Q, counts one of the Q's. This one will be Q squared. Q squared. So we have Q squared, right? Then we have plus this plus. What is our AFC? That is average fixed cost. 40 over Q. So this represents our average cost of production. So the last question says derive total cost. So that one is very simple. You remember that total cost is equals to fixed cost plus variable cost. Okay, and we are given our fixed cost in this question, which is 40, then plus variable cost, which is 3q squared minus q raised to the power 3. So this is our total